You're listening to Psych with Mike, and the most important way to support the show is to find us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. So no matter how you listen to Psych with Mike, find us on YouTube, smash the subscribe button, and we really appreciate it. Now, here's Psych with Mike. Welcome to the Psych with Mike Library. This is Dr. Michael Mahan.
And I'm Brett Newcomb.
I have a lot of empathy for you.
You should.
Do you have empathy for me?
I have empathy for everyone.
Do you?
I love all God's children. Yes.
So we're going to talk about empathy.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about where it comes from. This actually was a question again from the interwebs. So we're going to talk about the biology of empathy in a few minutes.
You're going to talk about that.
But the first thing is that I always like to make the distinction between what is empathy and what is sympathy. So sympathy is the ability to understand the emotions of other people, and empathy is the ability to put yourself perceptually in their reality and feel the emotions of other people. And so human beings are capable of doing both of those things. To be able to be good at empathy requires a certain amount of self-awareness and practice. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So for you, how do you view empathy as a human quality and its place in therapy?
I think it's a learnable quality, and I think we spend our lives learning it. And some of us are very good at it, some are not. But there are also, like so many other things, there's a place for it and a time. You can't always wear your heart on your sleeve and just hurt for everybody that you see that is in pain, because everybody's in pain about it. You know, doing therapy, you soon learn that everybody's crazy. Everybody has an issue. Everybody hurts. Everybody gets broken. I used to tell my clients, you can't be in love with somebody without getting hurt. The cost of loving is to be willing to be hurt. So when you get hurt, what do you do with that? Or when you see that someone else is hurt, what do you do with that? How do you do that? Which brings us to the question of empathy. And I think trained clinicians are skilled in the art of experiencing empathy. I need to accurately deduce from all the data that's available to me about you, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, and process that as I listen to you and sit with you, so that I can feel compassion. I can feel when you feel angry, I can feel that. When you feel sad, I can feel that. The better I am at that, then the better I can reflect back to you what I'm getting from you and ask you, am I right?
Right.
Am I understanding? Like right now, your jaw is popping and you're chewing that muscle, and that suggests to me that there's something in this moment that's getting to you. And it may not even be in this room, but my skill set tells me something's going on. Am I right? And you go, no, I have a habit of chewing, but okay, I hear you. I'll never say you're wrong, you're lying, you're not even willing to face the truth. I will say, okay, I hear that and I accept that. But because of my training, when I see those things, I automatically go to this definition. So if I think I'm seeing it, can I ask you again? Not because I'm telling you you're wrong. I'm telling you I'm wrong. And I want you to teach me to see you. So if I see you accurately, we do better work.
But you would say that when you are in the room with another person doing therapy, and probably you do this all the time,
right,
unconsciously, that most of the time you believe that you can accurately and authentically feel the emotion that they are feeling.
Oh, I don't know if I feel it. I see it. I understand it. I may feel it, but I think I would say I register it.
Yeah.
If you're scared, I'm not necessarily scared. If you're angry, I'm not necessarily angry. I've been in a room with a lot of angry people who I'm not angry with or about.
And so when I say feel it,
perceive it accurately,
That's what I mean. Is
I may
that,
not
right,
experience it.
Right.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I would argue that though if you perceive it accurately, you actually do experience it. It may be at a a very shallow level,
Okay.
but I think physiologically, if you perceive it accurately, it's difficult to not then feel it.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but you
Yeah.
have to make the case better. I just don't know that.
Well, so let's talk about what the biology is, and,
Okay.
and I know
Yeah.
that there was a lot of biology in this, and so rather than go through the whole thing, I'll put the article up,
Okay.
and people can read it if they want to. But the two concepts that I think are really important were the top-down thinking
bottom
and the
up.
bottom-up thinking, right? And so I want to start with the bottom-up because that's the one that I've been preaching for years. So back in the 90s, I started reading articles about what were called mirror neurons, and I became a super huge fanboy of mirror neurons. And just so that you know, I mean, if you read the article, you're going to see that they started this with macaque monkeys. So the story, the original story was this, that back in the 90s, they were doing research with a brand new technology called fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. And they were looking at areas that were active when a macaque monkey would do certain behaviors.
Areas of the brain.
Yes, areas of the brain. They were trying to track brain areas. This is very
Right.
early research of tracking brain areas. And so they had this macaque in this apparatus, and they would hand the macaque a peanut, and the macaque would open the nut and eat it, and they were tracking what areas of the brain lit up when the macaque was eating this nut. Well, one day the apparatus, the MRI, was down. It was undergoing maintenance, but the monkey was in the apparatus, and one of the research assistants wasn't supposed to be doing this, but was messing with the monkey and saying, "Hey, monkey, I've got your nut. I'm gonna eat your nut. Eat this peanut." And the machine was on, and they were recording. They didn't know it. And what they found was that the exact same areas of the monkey's brain were active when the monkey watched somebody else do the behavior as when the monkey himself did the behavior. And that was groundbreaking. No one ever thought that this would be the case. And so now they've mapped these areas in the human brain as well, and we know very conclusively that we have the ability to mimic behavior very, very well. And that actually is a part of the system, the biological system, that's called the bottom-up thinking process. We have areas of our brain that allow us to unconsciously interpret the nonverbal behavior of others and feel as though we are ourselves participating in the behavior, which is why viewing sports is so enjoyable.
So if I watched pornography, am
Exactly.
I experiencing the same kind of payoff that I would experience if I had a relationship?
Well, you obviously aren't going to have an orgasm unless you're also masturbating. But yes, that would be the idea, is that that's a part of the allure of pornography, that it can be a substitute or a surrogate for certain people to feel like they are in a relationship. Yes. So that's bottom-up thinking. Then top-down thinking is different areas of the brain, but is the ability to perceptually put yourself in the position of another person to essentially see the world through their eyes. Both of those things happen at the same time and lay the groundwork for the biological basis of empathy in human beings.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I've always believed in this very, very strongly, and I believe that people who are therapists, people who tend to be have a predisposition towards the helping professions, are individuals who have higher, more acute levels of this quality than others.
Top down or bottom up?
Well, I would say probably bottom up. But
that's interesting, because I would have said top down.
No, because, and so here's and the reason, and it may be, I don't know, but this is my experience, is that, I've always felt like the reason I didn't go, not the reason I didn't go to medical school, because I didn't go to medical school because I wouldn't have gotten in, but I could never perform surgery on another human being, because I would spend my entire time thinking about how it feels to have that body cut into. That would just, I couldn't do it. I could not physically do it. And so I have that very real bottom up. I have a real connection to that. I can really feel that in my body. But I also recognize that when I am in that circumstance, especially when I'm in therapy, I am always trying to project myself into the perceptual reality of my clients. I can feel myself doing that. And I did that even before I had an explanation for what that was. But that doesn't feel as compelling or as connected to me as the bottom up. So for me, I really feel the bottom up. Now, your experience may be that for you, you really feel the top down. And I think people can be different in their affinities or their abilities to experience those things and the extent to which that is real for them.
Well, I would say that I don't disagree with you at all. I think my explanation would be however you were trained experientially as a child predisposes you to be top down or bottom up. It's about adaptability and survival. So as I grow,
So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
On the Myers-Briggs, would you say this is the difference between intuition and thinking?
probably,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too.
yeah. So I think it's for me been a better survival skill to learn to suppress my own emotional state so that I can be freer to react to the emotional state of those in my surround. The challenge for me as I aged was to unlock my own emotional state so that it wasn't happening in the background and causing problems that crept over my defensive walls and
Right.
got me in trouble.
Right.
Because if someone challenged me on something, I would deny the reality of it. I would say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not doing that. That's not what I feel. That's not what I want. But it may well have been.
Yeah.
And I didn't know because I suppressed all that awareness because when I was very young, that was a required
Right.
survival skill.
And I agree 100% with
Okay.
that
Right.
for people who grow up in, and I'm going to say traumatic. Are you okay with that word? Okay.
I lived a trauma lifestyle.
Yeah, that in if you experience that kind of trauma where the very specific message is no, you don't feel,
Right,
we're not okay
right.
with that. That yes, you're going to become less connected to your bottom up thinking.
Yeah, you don't get that feedback.
Exactly.
Which again is what you learn to do therapy. I have to give you accurate feedback, and it may challenge your own self-perception. So if I say to you, boy, it feels to me like whenever we mention your grandfather, your chest tightens up. I see something physically change, and you're going, no, it didn't happen. Never. My grandfather was a wonderful man. I'm not saying he wasn't a wonderful man, and I'm not saying I'm right. I just say it feels to me like something happens. Am I wrong? And you say, yeah, you're wrong. So okay, I accept that. Let's move on. And then we go on, we have more conversations, and I see it in other situations. And then you talk about your boss. And I might be really clever and say, is your boss like your grandfather in any way? Do they have similar traits, or do they look alike? Do they say similar things? And try to find the connectivity of the thread so that you can start to recognize if grandpa is not safe for you to think about, maybe I can get you to think about your boss
Right.
and recognize there are similarities here. Well, that's interesting. How do you understand that? What do you make of that? Is it possible that there's bleed through or overlap? Well, I don't know. I don't know either. I don't know. Let's talk about something else. Let's go on. So we look for the patterns. We reflect our observation of the patterns, and if we're on target, then the empathy occurs so that the client can begin to see themselves from outside
Right.
and say, oh, I do look like that. I do feel that way.
Now, my feeling, and I'm going to ask you this
Yeah.
question if you agree with this.
Okay.
That bottom up thinking is for me more genuinely I feel like the biological underpinnings of empathy, the ability to feel the emotions of others. And top down thinking feels like to me, or my experience is that seems more like sympathy. I can project myself into the awareness of other people and see the world through their eyes.
So I would say to you that for me, it's like the distinctions between the dinosaur brain or the old brain, the middle brain, and the new brain as we evolve as a species. And some of that stuff is at such a reflexive survival level physiologically. It's not a thought process. There's not anything going on there except I need to survive.
Right.
And then the cognitive process is the thinking part. And so I would say top down is a reflection of evolutionary maturity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Where bottom up is an expression of animal survival.
Yes, I agree 100% with that.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
So it's useful if in therapy I'm talking to you and I get a strong sense that your reactions are the animal survival reactions, and that plays out in your poker hand as you live your life. When you interact with the police, if they stop you because you ran through a red light or a yellow light, how you viscerally respond to the sight or the presence of an officer who's armed and has a badge and is giving you commands. Step out of the car. How do you deal with that? Is it here or is it here? And
you pointed to your heart and to your head.
Yeah.
For people who didn't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm watching on the video. So to me, that would be the relevance of even having an idea of the difference of the two processes. So if we together can figure out where it fires for you when it fires, then we can look at the range of flexibility. How could you be different? What do you need to learn? If you get pulled over by a policeman, is there some little mantra that you can say to calm yourself down so that you don't come at them aggressively or sharply, that you can smile and neutralize them as best you may? Or do you puff up your chest and get all macho man and I'm going to take you on and take you down? I mean, it's crazy, but that's what happens. And so you say, again, let's look at the patterns in your life. Let's look at circumstances where this has occurred before. What's the commonality? And can we learn something from that that's useful to you here?
Right. And to make a callback to a show that we recently did on emotional intelligence, to me, this is where the emotional intelligence actually
is useful.
Is useful, is that you have to be able to understand your own emotions and be able to manage those. And in those kinds of situations where you are confronted with some external stimulus that could go either way. You could either say, yes, I'm going to comply with the officer's commands and I'm going to get out of this traffic stop with the minimum amount of consequence possible. You could do that, or you could puff your chest up and you could say, oh, I'm going to take this guy on and we're going to have a fight. But the way the difference in that, the way that what's going to decide which of those two paths that you follow is going to be your own awareness of your own internal emotional dialogue. Yes?
I agree. And then I think as a therapist, part of my job then is to suggest to you there could be other strategies to use and other paths to take. And can we pretend? Can we experiment? Can we practice doing it a different way? And can you feel confidence in that? And are you willing to attempt it? And what I know from experience is that when clients are working on those kind of things like assertiveness, self-confidence, they learn to begin to practice assertive and self-confident manifestations out in the surround, not where the central issue is. So if I have trouble standing up to my mom or to my wife or to my boss, and I'm devastated by the way they treat me, and I work on this skill set, I'll stand up for myself in the grocery line. Excuse me, I was here first. You get behind, or you hit me with that basket. Can you back off? Whatever. I'll do that somewhere safe as a practice behavior and see whether or not I can do it. Do I collapse? Do I fall apart? Do I get scared? Do I lose the argument? Do I get beaten up? Whatever might happen. So as I experience growth and confidence, then I bring it closer to home. And I learn, instead of being sarcastic or funny or hateful in what I say to my boss or my wife or my mother, I can directly say, I don't like it, whatever it is that's going on right now. And, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I don't know. I just need to tell you I don't like it. And I'm not happy.
Well, and I think that sometimes that is a therapeutic intervention when you say, "Hey, all you have to do is let
no.
people know what you feel."
Yeah.
You don't have to. When they say, "Oh, well, what are you going to do about it?" You don't have to have an answer to that.
I don't like what's going on here.
It's okay for you
What
to
I may
just
do
say,
about
"Yeah."
it is leave.
Right.
I may leave the room. I
Right.
may leave the marriage. I may leave the environment. But right now, I'm just saying,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this. I don't like when I feel this way.
But clients all the time say, "Well, what am I going to do about it?"
Yeah.
You don't have to know that answer.
Sit
you
with
don't
it. Sit
yeah.
with it for a while.
Right.
Yeah. See what the bed is. You want to ante up? You want to fold?
So I know we're getting low on time,
Yeah.
but before we go, I want to ask you a question that's putting you on the spot. So
I live on the spot.
I'm just letting you know that up front. Do you believe that empathy, either top down or bottom up, is a required trait to be able to do therapy?
Yes,
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, yeah.
but I believe it's more top down.
And I believe it's more bottom up. So that will be to be continued.
All right.
As always, if you want to find us on the interwebs on YouTube at Psych with Mike and give us a subscribe, that would be super beneficial. We would really appreciate it. The music that appears in Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike and Brent. I can't handle the buttons.
Yeah.
Elevator go up, elevator go down, elevator go down a hole.